Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're looking at something that's, well, it feels like it's pretty much everywhere you look, adult coloring books.
Right. They're definitely having a moment.
Yeah.
Or maybe more than a moment.
Yeah, exactly. Bestseller lists, you see them in gift shops, therapists sometimes mention them. It's this global thing now promising stress relief. And the big question we're kind of digging into today is, okay, is this just a harmless way to chill out, be mindful, or, could it be pointing to something, maybe something deeper in how we're all feeling right now?
It's definitely curious, isn't it? I mean, you think about it. We've got all this amazing technology, endless apps for wellness and self-help.
Right.
And yet, so many adults are grabbing crayons, essentially, going back to a kid's activity.
It does make you stop and think, why this? Why coloring? Why now?
Exactly. What's the appeal?
I remember seeing someone in a coffee shop a while back, just intensely focused on coloring in one of those really intricate books. I think the title was something like Zen and the Art of Stress Relief, right there on the table next to her latte.
Oh, the irony.
Totally. Using something so basic, so, I don't know, analog, to fight off modern stress in this super high-tech world. It really stuck with me. What's driving that?
Well, that image you painted, it really captures it. Because this isn't some fringe hobby, is it? It really exploded around, 2015?
Yeah, sounds about right.
And the way it's marketed is all about the benefits. Stress reduction, mindfulness, creativity.
Yeah, fix your anxiety, help you sleep, combat burnout, all the modern plagues.
Precisely. But if you zoom out a bit, you see these weird contradictions in modern life, don't you? Like, we're hyper-connected online.
But people feel lonelier than ever.
Exactly. Or we have so much stuff, so much abundance. But there's this undercurrent of dread or anxiety.
Constant stimulation, yet we're exhausted.
And this relentless pressure. Always needing to be productive, always achieving. It's a lot.
Okay, so maybe in the middle of all that noise and pressure, these coloring books are like a little walled garden.
A contained universe, yeah.
Defined edges, A
Yeah.
clear task. You fill in the space, you see a result. It's something you can actually control.
Yes. That sense of control within those lines is, I think, absolutely key.
Unlike, well, most of adult life.
Right. Which often feels messy, ambiguous, unpredictable. Coloring gives you this structured space, clear rules, achievable goals.
You pick the blue, you pick the green, stay inside the lines, or don't. Simple choices.
Refreshingly simple compared to, navigating careers or relationships or global crises. And crucially, like you said, no judgment.
Yeah, no performance anxiety. No need to post it for likes. Unless you want to, I guess. Just you, the paper, the colors.
But here's where it gets a bit weird, maybe.
Go on.
This simplicity, this thing kids just do. It's now packaged and sold back to us as therapy.
Right. We're buying these fancy sets, mindful markers, blissful blues,
Spending money to meticulously shade patterns designed by someone else to soothe us.
It does feel like we've somehow managed to commodify basic, spontaneous play.
That's a really critical point, I think. Was just, kids having fun, expressing themselves. It's turned into this structured intervention with an expected outcome. Relaxation.
We've gone from just messing around with colors to following a prescription for calm.
Which makes you wonder, what are we actually trying to get away from? Is it just the busyness, the pressure to perform, to optimize everything?
Or is it something deeper, maybe unconscious stuff? Drives that make us want to sort of retreat.
That brings us right to that idea, doesn't it? Regression.
Yeah, that Freudian concept. Going back to an earlier stage, simpler times, safer feelings.
So when we pick up those pencils, maybe subconsciously we're trying to shed some of that adult weight. Leave behind the complexity for a bit.
What are we trying to escape then?
Well, think about the words they use to sell these books. Relax, unwind, find your inner peace.
All very appealing.
They definitely tap into a real desire for comfort, for security, but maybe they also subtly point to what we're afraid of.
Like fear of failure, fear of messing up, fear of just growing up.
Could be. It's almost like reaching for a feeling from the past, maybe a time before all those adult worries really took hold. A kind of nostalgia.
Ah, nostalgia. That's a big one. That longing for a simpler time. The good old days. Happy memories of coloring as a kid, perhaps.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But nostalgia, from a psychoanalytic view, it isn't just sweet sentiment, is it? It's often tinged with loss.
Loss of what?
Loss of that past, loss of innocence maybe. Something you can't actually get back.
So when we're coloring, are we really finding peace, or are we maybe kind of mourning something, that easier time.
It's possible. It raises that tension, doesn't it? This push-pull between expressing yourself.
But within very strict lines someone else drew.
Right. And it's therapy.
But it's also just another thing to buy. Consumerism.
It makes you think about why someone picks one up in the first place. Was it just, oh, that looks interesting, or boredom, or real crushing stress?
Or maybe just a vague feeling that something's off, something in adult life you can't quite name.
Exactly. And if we were to put on, say, a Freudian hat for a moment.
Okay, let's do it.
Imagine observing all this. All the Instagram posts of finished mandalas, hashtag Mindfulness Monday. You wouldn't just see pretty pictures. You might see projections.
Projections of what?
Of our inner worlds, our hidden desires, maybe fears, conflicts, each color choice, every field space, like a little unconscious message. A modern Rorschach test, almost.
Okay, interesting. So take the main selling point, stress relief.
Right.
From that perspective, you'd ask why. Why are we all so stressed? What is stress, fundamentally?
Good question. Maybe it's seen as a signal, right? An internal alarm that the ego, our conscious self, is getting overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed by what?
By the demands of the ego, our primal drives, and the superego, our internalized rules and ideals, the pressure to be perfect.
Wow. Okay, so the stress is like an internal battle spilling over.
Kind of. And the coloring? Maybe it's an attempt to silence that noise. To just stop the internal fighting for a while by focusing on something external and simple.
So it's not just relaxation, it's actively trying to quiet inner conflict.
It could be interpreted that way. It's a temporary retreat, a step back from those adult pressures.
Trading the big, scary decisions for which shade of blue to use next.
But that retreat, that regression we talked about, it's likely driven by those underlying tensions. That longing for a time before the demands piled up.
It's like admitting, okay, I need a break from being a grown-up right now.
Exactly. And think about libido, not just sex drive, but life energy, creativity, pleasure-seeking.
Okay.
Coloring could be a way to channel that energy, sublimate it into something safe, contained, socially acceptable.
So you get a little hit of creative satisfaction.
Maybe. But does it really satisfy that deeper creative urge? Or is it more like just numbing it for a bit, giving a quick, easy win without tackling the bigger drives?
That's a slightly uncomfortable thought, like it's the satisfying late.
Perhaps. And what about the other side? The less sunny drives, thanatos, the death instinct, aggression.
Whoa, how does that fit into coloring mandalas? Seems like a stretch.
Well, think about the meticulousness, the intense focus, sometimes the frustration if you mess up.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Getting annoyed if you go outside the lines.
Could that striving for perfection, that need to fill every space just right, be a disguised way of expressing some kind of aggression? Maybe against imperfection itself, against chaos.
Controlling the color, controlling the chaos. A symbolic hostility towards messiness.
It's a thought. And then there's projection again. We've talked about projecting our inner world onto the page.
Right, the colors reflecting moods, the intensity reflecting anxiety.
It basically lets you put your feelings out there, give them shape, which can create distance, maybe make them feel less overwhelming.
But like looking at your sadness as a patch of blue, instead of just feeling it inside.
Exactly. But does that help you deal with it? Or just observe it? And then when we share it online, hashtag Self-Care Sunday.
Is it genuine? Or is it performance?
Is it really about inner peace? Or is it the superego again, demanding we perform the role of someone calm, creative, mindful, presenting that ideal self?
It feels like we're embracing this regression, this step back, maybe without really looking at why we needed it so badly.
Yes. It's like offering a quick fix, a comforting detour that might actually reinforce the habit of avoiding the real issues.
Instead of building resilience to handle the stress, we just keep reaching for the temporary escape.
And true growth, arguably, involves facing those difficult feelings, not just coloring over them.
But Freud himself knew that seemingly trivial things, slips of the tongue, dreams, doodles, could reveal deep truths, right?
Absolutely. So coloring isn't necessarily just trivial. It could be seen as this modern form of free association. Every stroke, every color choice, potentially loaded with meaning.
Like you said, give two people the same picture, say a forest scene.
Mm-hmm.
One might use dark, dense colors, very controlled. The other uses bright, maybe even chaotic splashes, totally different inner worlds revealed.
Exactly. Different unconscious states playing out on the page.
So in the end, this whole trend kind of embodies that paradox. We crave simplicity.
But maybe at the expense of depth.
We treat the symptom stress.
Without necessarily addressing the cause. We soothe the ego.
But maybe don't challenge the harsh superego demanding perfection.
It prioritizes comfort over confrontation, perhaps, a turning away from the inherent messiness of being human.
So the crucial question becomes, when you color, are you doing it to create something meaningful within yourself? Or are you trying to conceal something you don't want to look at?
Are you seeking joy? Or are you just running from something else?
And that leads to another twist, doesn't it? This idea that the lines aren't just guides.
What if there are also limitations?
Yeah. What if, by focusing so much on filling in the shapes, we're unconsciously tracing the edges of our own self-imposed boundaries, our own little invisible cages?
Oh, that's provocative. So is it truly about mindfulness, letting thoughts drift? Or is it actually more about control?
Right. In a world that feels out of control, maybe meticulously filling in a complex pattern gives you this illusion of mastery.
A small pocket of predictability.
Which feels good. But is it always a healthy defense? Or is it just avoiding the fact that life is unpredictable?
And that relentless drive for perfection you see in some of those incredibly detailed designs.
Yeah, some are intense.
Does that mirror the wider culture? Always optimizing, always striving for flawlessness? Is coloring relaxing, or is it just another form of self-discipline driven by that fear of imperfection?
That fear of not being good enough, rearing its head even in a hobby meant to be relaxing.
And circling back to nostalgia,
Yeah.
if it's always connected to loss.
Then maybe coloring isn't just about happy childhood memories. Maybe it's also a way of mourning that lost innocence. Or resisting who we are now as complex adults.
Precisely. And here's that unsettling thought again. What if these books are like training wheels?
Training wheels for what?
For staying within the lines. Forever. We get so comfortable in these predefined spaces.
That we become afraid to venture out into the blank page of our own minds where there are no lines.
Exactly. Where real life doesn't give you neat parameters.
It highlights that tension. Yep. The pleasure principle, wanting that immediate gratification. The easy win of finishing a section.
Versus the reality principle, needing to face challenges, tolerate ambiguity, deal with difficult truths.
So if we rely too much on the easy comfort of coloring, could it actually sort of stunt our psychological growth, make us less able to handle the tough stuff?
It's a risk, prioritizing short-term relief over building long-term resilience.
And the projection thing, putting our feelings onto the page.
Yeah.
Is there a danger of overdoing that? Of just constantly externalizing, looking at our feelings on paper?
Instead of actually feeling them, processing them internally, dealing with them directly, becoming a spectator to your own emotional life.
But then again, people share these pages online. There's beauty in that sometimes, right? Like little snapshots of their inner state.
Absolutely. You can see the interplay. The Ed's desires maybe in the color choices, the superego's neatness and the careful lines, the ego trying to make it all look presentable.
But social media amplifies that performance aspect we talked about.
Definitely. Private creation becomes public performance. Are you coloring for you or for the likes? Is the superego hijacking the whole process for external validation?
So many unresolved tensions here. Is it harmless fun? Is it real therapy? Is it maybe subtly self-sabotaging?
Does it help us cope or just distract? Does it help us grow or keep us comfortably stuck?
It leaves you wondering, doesn't it? The next time you see one or even pick one up yourself, what's the real aim?
Are you trying to build a bridge? Connect with something deeper inside? Or are you building walls to keep the uncomfortable stuff out?
Exploring. Or just retracing the same old lines.
So yeah, this whole deep dive suggests that this seemingly simple trend of adult coloring books might actually be packed with meaning, more than meets the eye.
Looking at it through this psychoanalytic lens really connects it to broader themes, doesn't it? Modern anxiety, that search for control, nostalgia, how we handle our inner conflicts.
And hopefully for you listening, thinking about this might spark some reflection, maybe on your own experiences with coloring or similar activities, or just observing the trend itself.
Because understanding why we might be drawn to these things, the potential motivations underneath, that can lead to some pretty interesting self-awareness, right?
Definitely. Maybe the most colorful insights aren't actually found within the lines themselves.
But in understanding why we feel the need to draw them or stay within them in the first place,